everyone, Melanie here. Life has gotten busy for me and my little family, so I will be stepping down from my role as co-host. Valerie will be taking the podcast in a new direction, and I'm super excited to see what that looks like. Before I go, I'd like to say thank you. Thank you for listening, and thank you for your support. Maybe I'll be making an appearance again on the show, but that's for another day. For now, take care, guys. I had a lot of fun doing this, and I hope you've enjoyed it.
Hey y'all, it's Val. This episode we're sharing today was one of the Patreon episodes that we recorded previously. And you know what? Mel's story is just too kick-ass not to share with you all, so we agreed that we'd share this as one of our last episodes together. We hope you enjoy. Thanks for listening.
Hello, and welcome, friends and mortal enemies. Thanks for tuning in. You're listening to Terror is a Mood podcast, a sibling account of true crime and paranormal activity. Kick back and let's set the mood with your hosts, Valerie and Melanie.
Hey everyone! Thank you Patreoners for being here.
What's up? You're part of the in crowd.
Yeah, tell everybody to get down here for $5. Come on.
Yeah, plus you get a sticker.
Who doesn't love stickers? That's just the start, guys. We are working on merch. We have a lot of big things planned.
Yes, and we love you and appreciate you for letting us do this. So thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We got some good stories, right, Mel?
I have an interesting one, actually. It's taking me down to the south. We are going to be in Georgia. So, have you heard of Okefenokee Swamp?
I don't think so. It sounds cute, though.
It's not cute. I wouldn't say it was cute. I wouldn't feel safe there anywhere
No.
for a number of reasons. Not only the history, but the area is home to an estimated 10,000 to 13,000 gators.
That sounds terrifying.
That's just one part of it. Alrighty, let's see. It's the Okefenokee Swamp in Georgia, in the southwest corner of the state.
Cool.
So the Okefenokee Swamp, it's the largest blackwater swamp on the continent, covering 438,000 acres.
Wow.
Yeah, it's huge. It's bigger than Atlanta.
Oh, shit. That is big.
Mm-hmm. It was named by the Creek Indians in Georgia and roughly translates to water shaking.
Oh, in what language?
In Creek.
Oh,
In
cool.
the Creek Indian, native language. And the Seminole language, I believe the word for Okefenokee translates to trembling earth.
Ooh, I like that.
And those were the Indians, that also occupied the area and moved down to Florida.
Yeah.
All right. So the Oconee Indians were one of the most important branches of the Creek Indian Confederacy and were major players in the mound building business. Today, I think there are 74 Indian mound buildings in the swamp still preserved. The Okefenokee Swamp is made up of 60 spongy peat moss-formed islands, a number of lakes, innumerable watery glades called homes or hammocks, and 60,000 acres of grass-covered marshland.
Mm-hmm.
So, one article described it as a 7,000-year-old peat-filled bog inside a huge saucer-shaped depression that was once part of the ocean floor.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It sits 12 feet above sea level and is a source of two large rivers, St. Mary's and the Suwannee River.
Nice.
It is home to countless venomous snakes, biting bugs, and even carnivorous plants. Then there are the alligators that I mentioned.
Yeah.
It apparently hosts, 13,000 gators at the most. The oldest one is like 80 years old. And this place really intrigued me because it is basically the environment the dinosaurs were around, in which scientists also agree with. Like, there's no place like this in the world.
Oh, that's cool.
And a lot of stuff has happened. So, Val, you have a choice. Aliens, Bigfoot, or ghost first?
Ooh, aliens.
Okay, fun. So, aliens. So in May 1998, a UFO was sighted on the east of the swamp. The UFO was described as a large, shiny black object that hovered for some time, then broke apart into a few smaller objects that flew away in different directions. This case has been investigated, but is yet to be explained. I did a search for the article that they apparently was reported in the local paper. I could not find it. But I did find that it had been investigated up until 2019 and still there was no explanation as to what it could have been. I'm sorry, not 2019, 2009.
Okay.
Yeah. This account was submitted to Okefenokee X-Files website page, and it is on the Okefenokee website, so I feel like it's pretty credible. I have lived in the area all my life except for a few years in the military. About 15 or so years ago, I was dating a girl who lived about a mile from the swamp entrance. I stayed over at her house till near midnight one night. As it was moonlit night and the road out to the main highway was white sand, I was idling along with no lights on, trying to catch a glimpse of any falling stars. I hadn't drove very far when something strange happened. I saw a very bright white light about the size of a basketball and as bright as a vapor lamp flying through the pine trees ahead of me and to my right. It seemed to be moving about 60 miles an hour and was maybe 6 or 7 feet off the ground. I thought it was going to come out of the woods right on top of me, and I hit my brakes.
Oh, shit. You keep driving! I would have been terrified.
Right? Yeah. As soon as I hit my brakes, it was as if it saw my brake lights, and it immediately went back the way it had come. It didn't seem to turn around, but simply reversed direction in an instant. I later went back to see if maybe I had somehow seen a car's headlights or a street lamp or something. They didn't see anything, and that was one personal account. This one coming up, I was like, this is pretty weird that this is the guy's account, and it's pretty classic alien abduction. Let me know what you think.
All right.
So this next story involves Mike Goodell. He was from Mount Morris, New York, 33 years old, and a corrections officer at the time. So in early 1996, he decided to make a trip to Okefenokee Swamp. He parked at the Stephen Foster Park and used a canoe to paddle over to Billy's Island. That's a really popular island. So much has happened there throughout history, so much is still there now and operating like day to day. That same evening, his canoe was found on Billy's Island, but Mike was nowhere to be found. This led to federal, state, and local officials starting an extensive search over the next few weeks. This search included hand-to-hand searches combing the entire island, bloodhounds that could not pick up a scent beyond a small area, heat-seeking infrared helicopters turned up nothing. Cadaver dogs were brought in as well, and they turned up nothing too. 40-something days after the disappearance, a man was seen by a boater leaning against a tree near the water's edge on Billy's Island. A day later, the same man identifies himself to some passing canoeists. He was brought to a local hospital in a confused and disoriented state. When questioned about where he was and what happened, he didn't have much else to say other than he had been on the island the whole time. Yeah, living off the land and swamp water. This guy claims he was there the entire time, this is how he survived, and goes home. You know, in the Associated Press article, Robert Highfield, a sheriff's officer helicopter pilot from Florida, who flew 7.5-hour days at heights as low as 150 feet to search for Goodell, says, "I'm very skeptical. The infrared equipment, which can sense the heat of a rodent's body, should have detected Goodell." He's a 300-pound man, so he was like, there's no way he could have been hiding. The Charlton County Sheriff, Dobby Connor, had this to say of the search. "We had some of the best woodsmen, best tracking people on the ground, and the best tracking equipment in the air searching for him. I think it would have been impossible to have gotten by that." Now, Mike Goodell has never said, "I was abducted." The speculation is that he was taken without his knowledge from the island and then returned sometime after the search had been scaled down, with his memory seemingly erased. Which, if you know, is a very classic tale of UFO abduction. They're not going to bring you back right in the middle of the search.
Oh, no. They're smarter than that.
And you're going to believe that you were there the entire time, because that's all they want you to remember.
It's true. And I'm so excited. I really love aliens.
So, in Georgia alone, the National UFO Reporting Center says that there has been 1,871 UFO reports.
Mm-hmm.
That isn't a lot. It's definitely not one of the highest reported states. New Mexico is higher even. Colorado is one of the lowest, I think. So, it varies. But this area, I feel like, if it's been around for this long, literally, I should tell you, the alligators weren't brought there. They were already there.
And no one messed with them? They just kept populating?
Direct descendants of dinosaurs in this area. This is literally like a prehistoric time, this area. They were bigger. They were like 18 feet and 20 feet long, according to one of...
That sounds so scary.
One of the videos I watched for this story, I was like, oh, gosh. Thank goodness they're smaller, and even then, they're not that small. Well, I'll go on with some more folklore of the area, and I thought this was really cool. This area is known to have one of the very first accounts of Bigfoot in history.
Oh, wow. Cool. Let's see.
It all begins in 1806, when the legend first appears. It is in a book written by Jedediah Morse called Geography Made Easy.
Nice.
So the story goes that a group of Indian hunters had gone into the swamp and become lost. When they were most desperate, a party of the most beautiful women they had ever seen came to their rescue. The women came to warn the men to flee as fast as possible, because their husbands were fierce men and cruel to strangers. These men of the swamp were said by the Creek Indians to be of gigantic stature. So this was the first account of a huge man in the area. I found another article that talked about these women with mean husbands. According to the early Muskogee or Creek Indians, at the center of the swamp was an island of high ground inhabited by a race of incredibly beautiful women called the Daughters of the Sun. Their husbands were fierce men and cruel to strangers. That was a little bit of folklore based on some big people that lived somewhere that you really couldn't get to. The winter of 1828 to 1829 was extremely dry, and two men living on the edges of the swamp decided to explore as deep into the swamp as they could. As they explored deeper into the swamp over the next 2 weeks, they made a discovery that reads, "The length of the foot was 18 and the breadth 9 inches. The monster, from every appearance, must have moved forward in an easy or hesitant gait, his stride, from heel to toe, being a trifle over 6 feet." That excerpt comes from the Georgia Statesman paper published in January 1829.
Dang. That's a long time ago.
So almost 200 years ago, people were talking about Bigfoot.
Yeah.
This stirred the curiosity of a party of hunters from Florida. They were 9 men in total. They were guided by one of the men who had found the tracks we talked about earlier. They went into the swamp, into the same area the tracks were first located, and searched for them. They found a place to pitch camp for the night, and that's where they were attacked. The accounts say that the hunters were discharging their guns to reload them with fresh powder for the night when a wild animal charged their camp. This is that account from 1829. The next minute he was full in their view, advancing upon them with a terrible look and ferocious mien. Our little band instinctively gathered close in a body and presented their rifles. The huge being, nothing daunted, bounded upon his victims, and in the same instant received the contents of 7 rifles.
Dang.
The fight, however, did not end there. He did not fall alone, nor until he had glutted his wrath with the death of 5 of them, which he effected by wringing the head from the body.
Oh, shit.
Writhing and exhausted, at length he fell with his hapless prey beneath his grasp. So what the heck happened here? This is an account from 1829, but of course we don't know. There's no evidence. There's no photos. Do you know how quickly things go in a swamp, Val?
You mean like decompose?
Yeah, decompose.
No idea.
It can take a whole skeleton to decompose in 3 to 4 months.
Oh, wow. Is that fast?
In a swamp, I would say so. Yeah.
I have no idea.
I think that's pretty fast.
I have to have a reference. Just like how long does it take to decompose? Not in a swamp.
It says it can usually take 3 weeks to several years for a body to completely decompose. depending on factors such as temperature, humidity, presence of insects, submergence in substrate such as water. So this really may be something that happened, because even to this day there are areas you cannot access and go explore in the swamp. And this is from 200 years ago. What if everything died off over time? That last person did, and we'll never know. Today, there is the Georgia Swamp Ape Research Center, and that studies the Bigfoot reports.
Dang, that's cool.
Right? This group believes that the southern Bigfoots are 7 to 9 feet in height, an average of 800 pounds, are covered in hair, and give off horrid odors.
I want to know what their definition of horrid is, because skunks are supposedly like a horrid odor, but I love it.
Okay, yeah, exactly. I was going to let you know a few of the other names that he's kind of known as, and one of them is the Florida skunk ape, because they have the odor of a skunk, so that
I think I have a hat for Bigfoot now. Never had it before, and now I'm like, what's up? You're giant and huge. Too. You know, what do they say? The bigger the cushion, the harder the pushin'?
Ew, what?
I heard that when I was young. It was talking about one of our cousin's boyfriends. That's what she told me, because I was like, he's a large man, and she was like, yeah, girl, the bigger the cushion, the harder the pushing. And I was like, what?
I don't know what you're
Gross.
talking about.
I don't even know that. I was like 12. Anyway, sorry, Bigfoot. Woo.
The organization proposes the creatures have always lived in the region and point to the Native American legends. Researchers have found trees stripped of bark to a height of 12 feet, and some trees were broken and twisted in such a way it was obviously a creature much stronger than any human.
Oh, that's cool.
In the area, cattle and deer are occasionally found brutally killed by something, possessing an appetite for only certain organs.
They're like chupacabras, but, Bigfoot.
There are many different names for this creature that has been reported in the area. Some parts know it as the Florida skunk ape or the South Georgia pigman.
Oh, I don't like that one. It sounds scary.
He is kind of the same, but he has a pig nose.
Yeah, nope. See, I don't like that. That's terrifying. And pigs eat everything.
Oh, yeah, that is the scary thing about pigs.
So scary. Okay, go on.
One theory is that this creature migrated up the Kissimmee River Valley up along the Lake Rels Ridge to the game-rich swamps associated with St. John's River Basin. So, kind of migrated that way. I think it said it passed by Jacksonville, something like that, and made its way to the swamp.
That's cool. I love that he's been around, forever.
For so long. I had no idea that there was one of the first sightings in the States. I thought that was pretty interesting.
It is. It's really cool.
All right. And now, last but not least, the ghost in this area.
My favorite. I love ghosts. Sorry, I love aliens, but I really love ghosts.
I wish there were more alien. I tried to look up anything I could. Alien abductions, alien articles. This local legend has its roots thanks to the railroad that used to run right through the swamp until 1936 when the federal government bought the land to make a national park.
Cool.
Thank you, government. Do more of that now and forever. Thank you, please. #rewild the planet. The railroad was built here after a lumber company bought land in the area and started chopping down the cypress trees, highly sought after wood that is well known because it doesn't rot.
Oh, that's cool.
It is said that a man fishing along the tracks at Henson Creek fell asleep one night with the rails as his pillow. As the train appeared, the man did not stir.
Dude.
The steel wheels kept on rolling, and the fisherman lost his head.
Of course he did.
People have said that the local body can be seen walking the rails at night, swinging a phantom lantern in search of its head. Now, the only signs of the the railroad tracks are rusty machine parts in this area.
Dang. Oh, that's scary. That reminds me of a story. We had gone to Gardner State Park camping for a weekend, I think, and Uncle Mike was just, he was drunk all the time and happy, but he would tell us ghost stories that were fucking terrifying. And one of them was of a headless guy, and just thinking of this guy losing his head on the railroad tracks. I swear Theo Mike told us something about that. Maybe not that specific story, but it was something like that, because I can picture him being drunk and silly and pretending his head was cut off and sticking his tongue out, making crazy faces.
Yeah. Uncle Mike was definitely the crazy fun uncle.
What's up, Theo Mike?
Native American ghost sightings have also been reported on the east side of Okefenokee, in an area called Camp Cornelia on Trail Ridge. A former refugee who resided there in the early 1990s reported seeing Native American Indians in full regalia. The spirits were not aware of the walls and boundaries of the cabin, but seemed attached to the land itself. They seemingly went about their daily rituals. But I would be interested in seeing that.
Yeah, let's go, Mel.
Yeah, where is this, Georgia? That's not far. Another sighting of Native Americans was reported on the Trail Ridge in January 1998. A traveler hiking near the boardwalk area was surprised by the sound of drums in the distance. He then saw Native Americans carrying objects and walking swiftly in a single file line. They were traveling south.
Oh, wow.
The traveler reported no sense of hostility, but felt uneasy, as if he was seeing something he should not be observing.
Dang, that sounds amazing.
So this isn't something like unheard of. The Indians were here first, and at least 3 different tribes were in the area at one point or time on the swamp. So to see the ghost here, it's not unheard of. There have been reports of the drumming besides this as well. Another account of ghost in Okefenokee talks about how the men who worked for the lumber company would sleep in the trees on platforms up above the ground to keep away from the snakes and the bears. In the evenings, the workers would come together on a platform and play cards. Sometimes, a guy might not have enough to cover what he owes.
Uh-oh.
The guy he owes may tell him, "Aw, don't worry about that," and they'll carry on with the night. Nah, not cool. In the dead of the night, when everyone is sleeping, that man who owes a debt pays that debt with his life. The workers would say people go up in the trees to sleep, but they don't always come out. Sounds of workers yelling, of tools being used, have all been reported at all times of the day, according to Stephen Foster State Park Ranger Pete Griffin. This was as late as 2019, so spooky stuff happening pretty recently.
Yeah.
He says that he believes the men are working to earn enough to pay off their debt. Let's see. Orbs have been reported in this area as well, but many people chalk them up to swamp gas. Swamp gas is formed by decaying organic matter that has been naturally transformed into a luminescent gaseous form. However, these kind of orbs have been reported since the times of the Native Americans and European settlers.
Damn.
Yeah, it's been a while. There's a book called Okefenokee Album. It's a picture count, 68 photos showing what life was like between 1912 and 1951 at Okefenokee Swamp.
Yeah.
And there are accounts of the orbs in that book.
That's really cool.
I want to give a shout out to my good friend Samia, who might not hear this if she doesn't join Patreon, so I have to let her know right away. But I covered the story she suggested. Here, though, so you have to pay for it.
Yeah. Only here.
So yeah, what'd you think, Val?
That's really fucking cool. I've never heard of it, like any of that.
I do want to go visit. I would love to go visit, let alone just to see all this wildlife.
Yeah, I'm terrified of alligators, but I'm fucking down.
I don't understand how they let people just go willy-nilly in the swamp with these alligators laying around. That's just normal.
I think it's like survival of the fittest. I think it's just like how we like keep the population down by letting these idiots go. I want to be an idiot. I just don't want to die there.
I just don't want to get in the water.
To kick off our bonus episode for the true crime arena, I'm going to ask you, Mel, have you heard of Paul Bernardo and Carla Homolka?
No, not at all.
Okay, have you heard of the Ken and Barbie Killers?
Oh, no.
Oh my gosh. Well, buckle up, Buttercup, because this is some shitty shit. I am covering the Ken and Barbie Killers, also known as Paul Bernardo and Carla Homolka. As a heads up for everyone, we're going to talk about rape and lots of really messed up things. So this is a trigger warning to those of you all. It's a lot of craziness, and just be aware that it's going to get really dark. Let's start from the beginning, per usual. Paul Bernardo was born on August 27th, 1964, in Ontario, Canada. So this is a Canadian story. One of the most awful things out of Canada, truly. He was born to Kenneth and Marilyn Bernardo. They were a financially, well-off, stable, middle-class family. His father, Kenneth, was the son of an English woman and an Italian immigrant who created a pretty successful marble and tile business. So he was very successful that way, but he was abusive to his wife and children. His mom, Marilyn, at some point had cheated on Kenneth with the former boyfriend, but Kenneth ended up tolerating his wife's affair and is listed as the biological father on Paul's birth certificate. So, drama.
Yeah.
Yep. His stepdad, Kenneth, in 1975 was charged with child molestation, and there were rumors that he was even molesting his own daughter. So he is a piece of shit.
Oh.
I know. And Bernardo's mom became depressed over her husband's abuse. She withdrew from family life, and she was also just living in the basement of their Scarborough home. Even with all the chaos in their family, Paul Bernardo did not seem to be affected by this dark turn in his childhood. A lot of people said they recall him as being always happy, a young boy who smiled a lot.
Hey.
I know. That is until he was 16. That's when his mom finally told him that he was actually the result of an extramarital affair, and this news would lead to a noticeable change in Bernardo's outward behaviors. So after that happened, he started calling his mom a slob and a whore. Unfortunately, though, Paul was good-looking and charming, and it's probably why it was so easy for him to manipulate women and take them off their guard. So while he was studying at the University of Toronto, he became adept at picking women up at bars, only to later humiliate and eventually beat them.
Oh, gosh.
I know. And apparently this fun fact is that he read the classic horror novel American Psycho like his Bible.
Ew.
Let's go on to The Scarborough Rapist.
Oh, no.
In May 1987, the suburb of Scarborough would become this asshole's playground for his dark impulses. In the early hours of the morning of May 4th, 1987, a young woman getting off the bus was grabbed and brutally raped near her parents' home. Over the next week alone, there would be 2 more similar assaults. So the women who were attacked were all between the ages of 15 and 21, and the attacks all included beatings, intense verbal abuse, and dire threats to discourage victims from going to the police, which led, the authorities in Canada to believe that they had all been perpetrated by the same person. And the newspapers dubbed him the Scarborough Rapist. Some of the tales were that he stole one victim's ID, noted her home address, and threatened to kill her family if she went to the police.
Oh, God.
I know, he's awful. He also broke another victim's arm and stabbed others. So it would later come out that during his 5-year rampage as a Scarborough Rapist, Paul Bernardo raped or...
5 year?
Yes, I know, dude. It's so fucked. You'll see. Paul Bernardo raped or attempted to rape at least 19 young women. And they were all young women, often grabbed around bus stops. But, at least one of them was a 15-year-old who was attacked in her own bedroom.
No.
I know. Every woman's nightmare. A couple of Bernardo's...
So young, yeah.
I know. A couple of Bernardo's victims managed to fight him off, and Bernardo was actually questioned by the police twice, but he was never named as an official suspect.
Oh my gosh.
I know. They had him. It wasn't until May 1990 that one girl was able to give police an accurate description of her attacker. And I guess I read, too, that in 1995, the Star reported that calls to rape crisis centers and helplines increased by 30% in the period leading up to Bernardo's conviction.
Wow.
Also, I don't have the article, but I did hear this in another podcast. In order to combat these attacks, instead of telling men to fucking not rape women, they said, you know what, women? We're going to have a curfew. And women weren't allowed to be out after, a certain time, because then they were less likely to get raped. I know. They were like, you guys can't go out at a certain time, because if you will, you're probably going to get raped, and we don't want to deal with it. So they put women...
It's not how you handle that.
I know.
Yeah.
They put women on a curfew instead of, the men attacking women. And I guess the only good thing out of that was that there was a new bus idea that came into place where women were able to stop the bus wherever they lived instead of waiting for a bus stop. And the bus drivers had to stop there and let the women out so that they were less likely to, stop at bus stops, walk a couple blocks home or wherever. So that was good. But
that is pretty cool.
But yeah. So
that curfew was stupid.
I agree. But I did mention this is the Ken and Barbie killers, so we're going to talk about this asshole, Karla Homolka. So in I know, dude.
Her name scares me, kind of.
Just wait till you see her face. In 1987, a 23-year-old Paul would meet 17-year-old Karla Homolka at a hotel where they were in town for a convention for something. Carla was born to Dorothy and Carol Homolka in Ontario in 1970 and was the eldest of 3 siblings. She was described as well-adjusted, pretty, smart, popular. She had a fondness for animals that led her to start working at a veterinary clinic after high school. So she seems like a pretty good kid. I think the thing that's weird about these 2 dickheads is that they had totally normal-ish lives. Like, people remember them as, like, happy people. Not that they were weird.
There wasn't a sign before this.
No, yeah. I mean, I know Paul had a really shitty childhood, but he still seemed unfazed by it, which I think is terrifying. So, again, they met at a hotel, and Bernardo and Homolka had an immediate attraction, and 2 hours after meeting, they were knocking boots in a room.
Gross.
If you know, you know.
I get it. I'm just like, gross, you're psycho for each other.
I know, I hate them. I'm not going to slut shame, but I hate these 2 people. So, 2 hours after they were having sex already, and it would turn out that they shared the same sick fantasies. They quickly began a sadomasochistic relationship in which Bernardo acted as an abusive master and Homolka as a willing slave. Which, again, if that's what you're into, cool. Just don't fucking rape and hurt people.
Agreed.
Yeah. By December 24th of that year, Paul proposed to Carla.
Wow.
Yeah. They moved pretty quickly. Around this time, there was a sketch released with identifiers for the Scarborough rapist that led to 2 calls. The first in June had been called by a bank employee, identifying Paul as the potential Scarborough rapist. And the second call was received from Tina Smirnis, the wife of one of the 3 Smirnis brothers who were among Bernardo's closest friends. She also called and was like, yo, check out this guy. I saw the sketch and I think it's him. So now you can look at that picture I sent you. That's a sketch of him. You can see the resemblance.
Oh, yeah, there's a big old head of blonde hair on that.
Yeah, Ken, right?
Yeah, you can see it from that angle for sure.
I know. So, they're engaged and the police are getting these tips from people that maybe Paul's the guy. So after cross-checking several files, the detectives investigating the Scarborough rapist case decided to interview Bernardo. And that was on November 20th, 1990. It lasted 35 minutes, and Bernardo voluntarily gave samples of his DNA for forensic testing. Apparently, he was totally helpful and considerate, and I guess the detectives asked Bernardo why he thought he was being investigated for the rapes, and he said, I admit it, I do resemble the composite sketch, but I don't think it's very funny that I'm being accused of this just because we look alike. And they just said he was such a well-educated, well-adjusted, congenial young man that he couldn't possibly be responsible for the vicious crimes.
That is the American Psycho to a T.
Mm-hmm. He was released the following day, just fine. They took his DNA sample, cool. Around this time, Paul would move in with Homolka's family in St. Catharines, and at that time, coincidentally, the Scarborough rapes totally stopped. Not a coincidence. So we're going to go to 6 months before their 1991 wedding. I call this the fucked up wedding gift for Paul. So by 1990, Bernardo was spending large amounts of time with the Homolka family who really liked him. He was congenial. He was handsome. He was kind. They loved that their daughter, got this catch of a man. He was engaged to Carla, and even though he was engaged to her, he was constantly flirting with their youngest daughter.
Weird.
Yeah. He hadn't told the family that he lost his job as an accountant, and instead he was smuggling cigarettes across the nearby U.S.-Canadian border. That's how he was making money. But during this time, he became obsessed with Tammy Homolka. He would peep into her window and enter her room to masturbate while she slept.
What?
Yeah, her sister. Carla Homolka helped him by breaking the blinds in her sister's window to allow Bernardo better access.
What a creep.
For real. Both of them.
Yes.
So in July, Bernardo took Tammy across the border to get beer for a party, and while they were there, Bernardo eventually told Carla, his fiancée, that they got drunk and began making out. Again, 6 months before their wedding, Carla stole the anesthetic agent halothane from the clinic. She worked at the veterinary clinic. Halothane, I guess, is something they used to put the animals under.
I don't like where this is going.
I know, it's so fucked up. I'm sorry. On December 23rd, 1990, Homolka and Bernardo administered sleeping pills to the 15-year-old Tammy Homolka in a rum and eggnog cocktail. After Tammy was unconscious, Homolka and Bernardo undressed her, and Carla applied a halothane-soaked cloth to her sister's nose and mouth. So the whole gift was that Carla wanted to give Tammy's virginity to Bernardo for Christmas because apparently Bernardo was disappointed that he wasn't Carla's first sex partner. And even though they'd been dating and doing all these crazy things for however long, he was just like, gosh, I wish you would have been a virgin when I met you. So in order to remedy that, Carla was like, here, take my sister's virginity.
No.
I know.
No. How twisted.
It's so fucked, dude. So with Tammy's parents sleeping upstairs, the pair filmed themselves as they raped her sister in the basement. Tammy, I guess, eventually began to vomit, and she choked on her vomit. So the pair tried to revive her, and then they called 911, but not before they had evidence, of course. They dressed Tammy and moved her into her basement bedroom. A few hours later, Tammy Homolka was pronounced dead at St. Catherine's General Hospital without having regained consciousness.
I did not see that going that way.
I know. It's terrible. I told you it was horrible. So despite the pair's vacuuming and washing laundry in the middle of the night, and despite the presence of a chemical burn on Tammy's face, you know, there are autopsy photos that I didn't want to include. You can see like chemical burns on her mouth from where they
put the
chemicals,
that whatever
the
it
halothane
was,
or whatever it was. Even though all that happened, the coroner and the Homolka family accepted Carla and Paul's version of events, and the official cause of Tammy Homolka's death was accidental. You know, they just thought she choked on her vomit after drinking alcohol.
The autopsies showed nothing down there.
They didn't look. They had no reason to look. Like, who would think that these fuckers would do that to their sister? Yeah. So the pair subsequently, after this, they filmed themselves with Carla wearing Tammy's clothing and pretending to be her as like one of their sex games. That was one of the things they got off on. They also moved out of the house and rented a bungalow in Port Dalhousie. I have no idea how to say that. So that her parents could cope with their grief. What I thought was super fucked up is that when they buried Tammy, Carla and Paul left a picture of themselves, just like smiling. It wasn't anything crazy, but they put a picture of themselves in her casket so that she could be buried with them.
That is terrible.
Yeah. It is awful. It's horrible. So Bernardo and Homolka went on to marry on June 29th, 1991.
Psychos.
This ended up being the very same day a horrified couple canoeing in Lake Gibson discovered concrete blocks containing human body parts in the water.
Ugh.
The remains belonged to a 14-year-old Leslie Mahaffey, who had disappeared on June 15th and happened to be one of their victims. So the day that happened, and it was all over the news, was the day they got married.
Wow. Talk about a coincidence.
I hate them. And I sent you pictures of them on their wedding day.
They look so happy.
I know. So Leslie Mahaffey was the body that they found on their wedding day. Not them, but people. And her story is that she had been out with her friends on June 15th, and she ended up missing her curfew, and her parents, super regrettably, locked her out of the house. She was sitting on her porch, and Paul was walking around and noticed her and was like, hey, I'm going to rob your neighbors. What's up? What are you doing? And she was like, okay, cool. Like, didn't even think about what he said to her. And instead, she was like, do you have any cigarettes? And he was like, yeah, of course. So he led her to his car, where he eventually blindfolded her, forced her into the vehicle, and drove her to Port Dalhousie, where he told his wife, Homolka, I guess not wife yet, his fiancée Homolka, that they had a new playmate. So Bernardo and Homolka subsequently videotaped themselves torturing and sexually abusing Mahaffey, all while listening to Bob Marley and David Bowie, which I fucking hate. And the whole time, Paul is promising her that her good behavior will determine what's going to happen to her after they're done. And they continued to sexually assault and torture her. How she died differs based on who you ask. Bernardo claimed that Homolka fed her a lethal dose of halcyon, I don't know what that is. And Homolka claimed that Bernardo strangled her. She didn't kill her. Bernardo did. After they moved the body to the basement, they decided that the only way to dispose of the evidence would be to dismember her and encase each piece of her in cement. So they bought a dozen bags of cement at a hardware store the following day. And Bernardo kept the receipts, which would prove damning, at his trial. Good that he's a fucking idiot. Exactly. And Bernardo used his grandfather's circular saw to cut the body. They just made numerous trips to dump the cement blocks in Lake Gibson, which is, I guess, 18 kilometers south of where they lived. At least one of the blocks weighed 200 pounds and proved beyond the pair's patience or abilities to sink. So they just left it near the shore. And that's where the father and the son, who were fishing discovered it on June 29th. And it was Leslie Mahaffey's orthodontic appliance that proved definitive in identifying who she was.
Wow. Thank you, forensics.
Yes, Mel. I agree. Thank you, forensics. But you have to keep in mind this is 6 months after Paul Bernardo gave the detectives a DNA sample. They have him. It's been 6 months.
What? I did not even think about that.
Dude.
With everything going on, I totally forgot they have his DNA.
Just wait, dude. It gets even worse. So, Kristen French was her next victim. Over the 3 days of Easter weekend, Bernardo and Homolka videotaped themselves again as they tortured, raped, and sodomized Kristen French. Yeah. They forced her to drink large amounts of alcohol and to behave submissively to Bernardo. The couple murdered French before going to the Homolkas for Easter dinner.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
Good timing.
So Homolka
Pleasant.
would eventually testify at her trial that Bernardo had strangled French for exactly 7 minutes while she watched. Though, again, Bernardo said that Homolka actually beat her with a rubber mallet because she had tried to escape, and that French ended up being strangled on a noose tied around her neck.
Oh.
Right after she died, Homolka apparently went to go fix her hair because they were going to dinner with her family.
That's normal.
I know. So let's talk about how these assholes got caught.
Yes.
In December 1992, the Center of Forensic Sciences finally began testing DNA samples provided by Bernardo 3 years earlier.
Why? What excuse do they have? How? Who? Negligence.
Oh, it's so...
I was like, I can't get out of
It's so
this.
fucking frustrating.
3 years?
Well, they had it for 3 years.
This is why I believe in nothing.
I know. So that same year in 1992, on the 27th of December, Bernardo had severely beaten Homolka with a flashlight on the limbs, head, and face.
His wife.
Yeah, he beat Carla. And that's another picture I sent you if you want to check out the picture. It looks awful.
Oh my gosh. I am looking at it. She's purple from eyebrow down to her cheekbone.
It looks so...
Oh. Those eyes are covered, guys.
Like completely...
The swelling, it looks terrible.
Yeah, like completely purple.
She has the inverse of a raccoon mask on her face in bruising.
So she ended up claiming that she had been in an automobile accident when she went back to work on January 4th, 1993. But her skeptical coworkers called Homolka's parents.
Yeah, that's slightly believable, but the way it looks, it does not look realistic for that injury. Like you got poked with cones in your eyes.
Only your eyes got in the accident. The coworkers called Homolka's parents, who assumed they were rescuing her from Paul, showed up at her house and took her from the house and said, "You're coming with us. This is it. This is bullshit." You know, they thought they were saving her. And when they got her, Homolka immediately ran back into the house and she was frantically searching for something. She couldn't find it, whatever it was. Her parents took her to St. Catherine's General Hospital. That's where they documented her injuries, and she gave a statement to the NRP claiming she had been a battered spouse, and she filed charges against Bernardo. He was arrested, but later released on his own recognizance, and Homolka moved in with her relatives in Brampton to stay away from him.
The DNA.
I'm going there. 26 months after the sample had been submitted, Toronto police were informed that Bernardo's DNA matched that of the Scarborough rapist and immediately placed him under 24-hour surveillance.
Yes. Justice.
Yeah. 3 days later, the Green Ribbon Task Force was created to investigate the murders of Leslie Mahaffey and Kristen French. And somehow during this time, the couple had applied to have their names changed legally from Bernardo and Homolka to Teal, which Bernardo had taken from the villain of the 1988 movie Criminal Law. And he was a serial killer in, I guess, this movie. I don't understand what happened.
I guess I kind of want to watch it, but
I know.
This just shows you how government works, guys. You can be somebody in a search for a murder and still get your name changed.
Mm-hmm. So the Metro Toronto Sexual Assault Squad investigators interviewed Homolka on February 9th of 1993. And when this happened, Carla realized that the jig was up, and she immediately got a lawyer and sought a plea bargain in exchange for testifying against Paul Bernardo.
Smart, I guess.
Seriously, whoever tattles gets the best deal. So she claimed Bernardo had told her he'd raped at least 30 women, and the government agreed to a 12-year sentence in exchange for her cooperation, although this would eventually backfire, and I'll tell you why. On February 11th, 1993, Homolka...
Can I just pause? Let's have a rant.
What?
What kind of woman do you have to be with the man who tells you he's raped 30 women?
Right? And also, she fucking helped him rape her sister, dude.
What happened to her childhood? Do you know anything about her background? We haven't heard anything about her grow up.
She was a good kid. Apparently, at one point, the dad was cheating on the mom. I didn't mention this because I didn't have the exact wording. The dad cheated on the mom, and rather than her getting mad, the mom was just like, sure, bring her in. She can be with us, and we'll have threesomes.
Oh.
Fucked up.
And that kind of already shitty dynamic. Okay. There's a little bit of insight.
So on February 11th, 1993, Homolka met with her Niagara Falls lawyer, George Walker, and she sought full immunity from St. Catherine's Crown Attorney Ray Houlihan in exchange for her cooperation.
That's a bit much.
She was placed under 24-hour surveillance. On May 5th, 1993, Walker was informed that the government was offering Homolka a 12-year sentence plea bargain that she had 1 week to accept. And if she declined, the government would charge her with 2 counts of first-degree murder, 1 count of second-degree murder, and other crimes. So Walker, her lawyer, accepted the offer, and Homolka later agreed to it. On the 14th of May, 1993, the plea agreement between Homolka and the Crown was finalized, and she began giving her statements to police investigators. And this would be famously referred to as the deal with the devil. It was probably called that because there were videotapes that were eventually shown that showcased their gruesome crimes, and Homolka's true nature was revealed, showing that she wasn't an abused victim, but rather a cruel sadist. On the 12th of September in 1994, Cooper attended Bernardo's trial and advised Justice Patrick Lesage of the Ontario Courts General Division, lawyer John Rosen, who was the new lawyer for Bernardo, because his first lawyer, Murray, said, I can't fucking do this, I quit.
Nah. Sorry, dude. You're too shitty.
Yes. So John Rosen, remember when Carla was looking quickly when her parents were rescuing her? She was looking for these videotapes and she couldn't find them because Bernardo had given them to his lawyer, Murray. And Murray kept them and didn't give them to anyone. He eventually ended up quitting as his lawyer, and he gave them to his new lawyer, Rosen. And Rosen did what he was fucking supposed to do, and he gave them to the authorities immediately.
Okay, so this Murray guy, did he have him on retainer or something when he knew that he could possibly be somebody for the Scarsborough rapist?
I don't know what you mean.
She looked for those tapes, and they had already been taken out of the house. So I was wondering, like, when, at what time frame did Bernardo get those out of there?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think he always had them, like, safeguarded just in case. And so she was looking for them, and so he already had them hidden away somewhere. And so when all this was happening, he had that first lawyer, and Murray just held on to them. And then he quit. When his new defense counsel, Rosen, started defending him, Murray was like, oh yeah, here are these tapes. And Rosen was like, what the fuck? And he gave them up immediately because that's what he should have done in the first place.
That's what anybody should have done in the first place if they saw those videos.
Yes, exactly. So Murray handed the tapes along with a detailed summary to Rosen when that happened. And he admitted that he had kept the tapes for 2 weeks. And then he was like, here you go, prosecutors. I guess he did have kind of a struggle with what to do with them at first, but he did the right thing and he gave them up to the prosecution.
Thanks, Rosen.
It took you long enough, but it's fine. So the revelation that a key piece of evidence had been kept from police for so long created a furor, especially when the public realized that Homolka had been Bernardo's willing accomplice.
Yeah, that's why it became the deal with the devil.
Yes. So the tapes weren't allowed to be shown to the spectators. Only the audio portion was available to them. And Bernardo had always claimed that while he raped and tortured Leslie Mahaffey and Kristen French, it was Homolka who actually killed them, usually because she was jealous that he was giving them all this attention. So that was the deal with the devil. It's so stupid. So they had made that deal with her. So Homolka...
Despite the videos.
Even with that, because they made the deal, you can't change it.
Wow.
It wasn't unless... I know, it's horrible. So Homolka was ultimately released in 2005. And she remarried, and she even had kids.
What a normal
Nelly.
life. How? She's alive? She's alive, isn't she? She's alive right now.
She's still alive. I think I sent you a picture of her now.
Let's check it out.
What I think was horrible was that she remarried, she had kids, and this Buddha even was a volunteering parent at the schools before people realized who the fuck she was, and they were like, whoa, no, that murdering, raping woman cannot
be around our children.
What is the word? Oh my gosh, what's the word when parents take people to field trips?
What is it called?
Chaperone.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she couldn't be a chaperone. She was doing all that. And the parents of her school where her kids were like, please stop. Don't let her do that anymore. How did she even do it in the first place?
True. What kind of standards do you have, Canada, for people that have raped and killed underage people? Is this not something that follows around your name like it does here in the States? There are registries. For my apartment complex, there are registries.
And she changed her name, so I don't think that was a huge deal, but still, fucking do the work. Paul Bernardo, however, was found guilty of all charges against him, and he was sentenced to life for the rape, murder, and kidnapping of 2 teenage girls. Though it's believed he killed a couple more, his rape victims are probably somewhere in the double digits, though, at least 13. His application for parole in 2018 after 25 years in prison was denied after only 30 minutes of deliberation. And a lawyer on behalf of the victims' families reported that there's never been an apology by Paul Bernardo. There's never been any indication whatsoever of remorse. And actually, Bernardo admitted to the court that he didn't even feel anything for his victims at the time of his sadistic crimes. So he's just a heartless piece of shit.
He embodied the American Psycho. That's what he did. That was his jam.
I know.
Okay, so American Psycho was already around before this guy, right?
Yep.
Canadian Psycho.
Canadian Psycho. Write
Thanks.
the book, Mel.
I will. With your help.
I will. I'll help you. So that was it. That's the case of the fucking Ken and Barbie killers, who I know I sent you pictures of them as a couple. They look dead in their souls.
We will upload photos, guys. Yeah, we'll still upload photos. We'll upload them on Patreon, and we'll upload them on Instagram for people to join. I see why they're called Ken and Barbie. They look picture perfect. You would never have guessed that these people...
Yeah, at that fucking time.
Blue eyes, blonde hair.
Ugh.
They're white.
I think they were blue dead eyes. You need to look into their eyeballs. And do you see anything back there?
I know this might peeve some people off, but this guy looks like MGK today.
Who's that?
Val, Machine Gun Kelly. I'll send you a picture.
I can totally see that. No, I know who that is.
Especially in the last photo.
Sorry, Machine Gun Kelly.
I'm sorry, sister. You're not that old.
Whatever, bro. I only know because she's dating that hottie from Body. That second picture I sent you of her with her curly hair and him waving his hand.
That's at their wedding, isn't it?
No, that's the fucking photo they put in her sister's casket.
Ew, why did you tell me that? Ugh.
I just had to tell you. If it makes you feel any better, when they exhumed her body and the parents realized what happened and how she died, when they asked if they wanted to put that photo back in the casket, they were like, fuck, no. Please don't. And they took it out, so she's resting in peace without their fucking shit faces in her casket.
Did they have to exhume her body for more forensic, DNA testing?
Yeah, they wanted to see. Yep.
Honestly, how long had she been dead?
I don't know, but I'm just glad that they did something.
I'm sorry, I was going to say after the video, I would have assumed that's enough evidence to leave her body in peace, but I am happy that they got that photo out of there.
Yes, I'm going to send you a picture of the Christmas Day one, because I didn't send it. I thought I had them all blocked together. And on Murderpedia, they have some way more explicit photos that I obviously am not going to share, but it's of a gagged and bound Carla naked and just, whoa! I was trying to look at them at work when I was just trying to figure out what picture I was going to save for the episode. And I was like, oh no!
You don't want to get fired.
Nope. I'm going to get so fired.
Don't do that, sister. Not a good idea.
Nope. Never again. It was on my phone, which also was probably bad, but it was just it was before I was about to check back in and start working. I had extra time in my lunch hour, and I was just like, oh shit, don't look at this stuff. Escape. It was bad. We did it. We did our first bonus episode. I'm so excited because I think it was really good.
I think these stories were badass, guys. You let us know what you think. We wanted to make these extra special for you because we're extra happy that you're here.
And I want to thank our first Patreoner, Tiffany. We love you. Thank you for supporting us.
That's our sister, guys. our family. Family showing support.
That's right. Well, enjoy your dinner and your night. Don't think about this stuff.
Have a good night. I'm going to go put on some Friends or The Office. Get happy.
Shut up, get happy.
I think that's how it goes. Shut up, get happy. And spook you later.
And remember, moody people live longer. Bye.
End recording.